for someone who would be able to restore a roller top. I was given your number from the workshop in Longside. I'm looking for someone who would be able to restore a roller top desk. It was my granddad's desk, so I'm looking for it to be restored, not like painted and like upcycled or anything like that. And there's a little bit of, I suppose, damage to the actual roller top. And generally there's some sort of scuffs and things that I was hoping I could find someone that would be able to bring it back to life. If you could give me a phone back, my number is 0.
Welcome to the Kotak workshop. Sometimes we have to go and pick up a piece of furniture and just about squeeze it into the back of the vehicle. But I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be interesting. Hope you enjoy.
So I've cleaned it up. I've taken the glue from the tape off. I've also cleaned out the join, which is where the glue had dried. And now I've got to decide how to put it back together. Here are 4 strips of fabric that have been glued in originally. My choices are to remove those and put new strips in, which I don't want to do because that would involve making a jig to hold everything in place. I could just patch over the 4, but obviously this is a weak point because these doors, tambour doors, like to move when they're left in one place in the desk. This is the weak part. So what I'm thinking is I've got some old material that was curtain backing, but it's quite thick. I'm thinking of gluing something in place across the whole part. I haven't quite decided yet. Also, the choice of glue is important. If I use PVA or wood glue or modern glues, if it leaks through, it's actually going to risk gluing the tambours in place and it'll make a mess. So originally this would have been like a hide glue or a more traditional glue, and I've got some which is in the fridge, but to use it I need to warm it up. And the good thing about that is that it can be cleaned up with water, cold water, afterwards. So traditional glue and traditional material, and hopefully we'll get it back working again.
So we've clamped the tambour in place, and we've chosen just to cover where the weakest part was, where the split was, and we'll do it in 2 halves because it's getting supported underneath. Now that bit of wood there is to stop it from popping up. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it, but I want to minimize the amount of glue that leaks through, and also I didn't want to use so much glue by gluing the whole thing. So I've got the glue warming up in a water bath. This is traditional glue, and get it up to temperature, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this has now been glued, and 2 patches. It's really good. It cleans up just with cold water. So the idea is that it doesn't run down into those gaps and cause me a problem later on, but we'll see. Meanwhile, I've got a different problem. Here are 2 of the pullouts, the little shelves that come to the side when you're sitting at the desk. And you can see obviously they're scratched, but the whole desk is finished in this varnish that is, in my opinion, not original. It's quite high gloss. I think it's like a polyurethane varnish, which has been put on at some point. Now, clearly that will have protected the desk, and there's some damage at the bottom, but it leaves me with a conundrum when we have the difference between repair, restoration, renovation. Do I just sort of clean it up and leave the gloss? Do we strip it all off? And I think I'm tempted to do the latter, actually, because that's going to make the whole desk look beautiful. It's probably a lot more work, but I think it will be worth it. Let's see. Okay, we've sanded it down to 180 grit, so that's what it looked like before. Of course, it looks very light, but that's not the final colour once you put finish on. So we do the old trick with methylated spirits to see what it's going to come up like. Oh, it is quite light. Okay. So it's quite a light oak. So the question is, do we want to keep it a light oak, or do we want to have something closer to the darker oak that it was? That's something to ponder. So here we are, a lot of sanding discs later. We've got a fully repaired tambour, stripped down, and there's all the, a bit bright, all the drawers in place. So a couple of repairs we had to do. One that might be interesting is here. So these are the handles, which are held in by these screws that come through the back of the drawer, and like so. And they're all in pretty good condition, except for the screws that were on the bottom 2, which had water damage, and the screws had rusted, and when I tried to remove them, they had rusted so much that they failed. So that meant that the holes were damaged. So what I've done for these 2 is I drilled out the damaged part and replaced it with an oak plug. You can see it was potentially splitting, so I'll need to be careful when that gets screwed back in. This one needed 2, and there's a little bit of wood putty as well because of the damage at the side. But with a pilot hole drilled and a bit of candle wax, these should be good as new and should work just fine. So here's the bottom right hand drawer, taking the handles off while we're sanding and cleaning, and this is the inside. Now you can see that these have warped a little bit, these internals, and the question is what to do. We just leave it and allow this to be storage for different papers that way. And this ongoing debate about restoration, repair or modification, what I'm thinking here is we use this wood elsewhere in the project, and I've cut some oak pieces which I'll think how to fix. But if I did something like that, then it would allow this to be used as a more modern system where you have these hanging folders and you can have as many of them as you want. And then use this space, which will be at the back of the drawer, for some sort of storage, so it'll need a divider. But I think that's going to be better and more useful as a working desk. The other thing that I've confirmed with the owner that we're going to do is I'm going to drill a hole opposite, probably slightly to the left or right, a hole to accommodate this, which is removable, and it allows a cable to come up, but you can take it out to put a plug through, a UK electrical plug. And what that'll allow is for when the tambour is down, for the owner, the user, to be able to leave a laptop or a lamp inside. So that's been agreed. I know it is a change from original, but this is going to be a working desk, and that will make it more useful. So there we are, everything in pieces.